It's 20 degrees in the Twin Cities, but a -6 real field temperature, which means it's time for opening day. Wheels up to Kansas City, where hopefully it is warmer than it is here. We got my 5 bold predictions today and a few other things to get to. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warne. You can unfollow me on the X at Brandon_WARNE. And joining me, as he always does, Mr. Dave Brown at Answer Dave Brown on the tweets. What's up, man?
Brandon, I'm excited to see what your 5 bold predictions are for the Minnesota Twins professional baseball team.
Well, they can't be any worse than my cold open the first 2 times I tried it. So should be a whole heap of fun. As a reminder, we're very appreciative for being your first listen every day and free and available wherever you get your podcasts, also on YouTube, and as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. If you're watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you're tired of all the shouting, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network as well. Your team every day. Dave, Twins wrap up their spring season with a 9-6 win over the Braves. Twins finished the spring 9-19, which doesn't sound great, but hey, the Braves, who are widely considered to be the favorite in a fairly strong NL East, were 12-15. So, again, we don't really care much about the records.
Let me ask you a question, Brandon, and no cheating. What was the Twins spring training record in 1991?
Wasn't it like 9-22 or something?
You're a little too close for. I don't have the answer. I don't know. Nobody knows the answer to these questions. Or 1987. Nobody cares. Nobody remembers. That's my only point. But
I think that
sounds like you're getting close though to the actual number.
I think that 91 team opened like 2-7. Like their regular season start was bad.
And the first week of the regular season also doesn't count. That's the thing that we need to understand.
Well, and that 87 team was like not very good at all. They had a negative run differential. So the 2 World Series winners definitely have some quirks to them. Manuel Margot leaves the game with a hand contusion, but should be good to go for opening day against Cole Ragans, where he will, I'm calling it, hit a homer. So again, we'll be watching that. That is not one of my 5 bold predictions, though, Dave Brown.
We get 6, actually, if you count. I'm counting that as a bold prediction anyway, even though you made it a couple days ago. So,
well, okay, I'm gonna take credit for it if it works out. So I'm glad that you're on board with that. Louis Varland gives up 6 earned in 5 innings, finishes spring training with a 6.30 ERA. Going to be a good litmus test for just how much we pay attention to spring training results. But 5 strikeouts, had a couple homers. He's going to go as far as the home run ball takes him or doesn't take him. I guess pun intended.
As far as they take him. Over the fence with the home run. The news, it didn't happen in the game, but the news from today that is kind of concerning is the knee situation for Josh Staumont. Apparently, that uncomfortable slip that he and Joan Crawford were wearing has led to an injury in his leg, and it's he tried to play through it, and because he's an athlete and that's what they do, and he wasn't walking around really well or something to that effect is what Rocco said. And so it doesn't look like he's going to make the opening day roster.
And it sounds as though if that is the case, Daniel Duarte is going to step in which case he'd be on the 40 with a 60-day IL stint for Anthony DeSclafani, I think is kind of the obvious move. But Twins made a few moves after the game today. Now the spring training's over. Matt Bowman and Jeff Brigham reassigned to minor league camp. Catchers Brian O'Keefe and Chris Williams. Infielders Michael Hellman and Anthony Prado. And utility man Nico Goodrum, who we hear is drawing interest from the Rays per Mark Topkin, who I think is the quintessential Rays writer. But not a lot of surprises. I thought Brigham maybe could throw his hat in the ring for that last bullpen spot. But obviously you can't go wrong with Duarte with how he's pitched this spring.
Do you think Hellman is going to see Kobe Mayo down in the minors when St. Paul opens the season?
Well, they're not going to be able to drive around in Fort Myers and do the Miracle Whip. So, sorry, they're the Mighty Muscles now. They're not the Miracle anymore. So that's actually an even worse joke than it sounds. Yeah, who knows? The Orioles are going to be a really intriguing team at AAA because they had a few guys. Colton Cowser made that team, who I think not a lot of people expected, but Jackson Holiday is going to be in that ether. So, yeah, I'll be looking for that Hellman Mayo duo squaring.
I'm sorry to get us off track like that. I just I couldn't. Sometimes I can't help myself. You know the feeling.
Never were on track. That's what our MO is. Yeah. So Nico Goodrum, I think the fact that the Rays are sniffing around him, he had a tough spring, but they like guys who can, hit lefties or whatever. And that's kind of Goodrum's calling card, is versatility in hitting lefties. If you're the Twins, though, are you really like, we don't really have much into him. Why give him away for nothing when we may, in fact, need him at some point soon? Who knows?
Yeah, I think it depends on how banged up Brooks Lee is, as far as the middle infielders go, and how some of the depth is going at shortstop. It's always kind of scary. Oh, the Rays are interested in you? I'd be, I guess, more scared if Nico Goodrum was a short reliever or something like that. Oh, the Rays want him? Maybe we need to reconsider what, our plan for Nico. But, I don't know. There might be something that they could pick up from the Rays that would be worth a trade or whatever kind of transaction.
Whose tweet was it where it was like, love this trade for the Rays? Now, who'd they get? Who'd they give up?
Yeah.
Is that Sam Miller?
Sounds like Sam Miller, or I think so. Or
Dude,
or one of those guys.
I think it was Sam Miller, who we do not get enough of in the public sector. Cody Funderburk, Cole Sands, and Jorge Alcala have been told they will make the team. And then, like I noted, Daniel Duarte traveling to Kansas City in a holding pattern. Boy, it sounds like they are going to give Duarte that roster spot, don't you think?
Funny, yeah, getting back to your, I guess, the more on point. Not the more on point. But
yeah, I was just saying more on point. You don't need to say that. You don't have to say the quiet part out loud on this show, Dave.
You get that enough on Twitter, I know.
Oh, my gosh. What a ride.
Let's not talk about too much what you're getting on Twitter right now, because it's not really anything we want to delve into too deeply. No. Isn't it kind of a funny, a circuitous, and not even a circuit yet, route that Duarte has taken to this point? He was on a couple of different major league teams last year, came to the Twins in the offseason, and they didn't let him go, but they designated him for assignment and still got him back. He cleared waivers, and he could have been picked up by some other team. And fortunately, even though the Twins, as we've said before, have done a lot of work bringing in extra pitchers and signing them to major league contracts, they're still running into some depth problems already here at the end of spring training. And it's just funny how the route that some of these guys take to the big league roster. And Duarte had a terrific spring, one of their better relievers. We'll see if that translates or not, but looks like he's going to be in Kansas City for opening day.
Yeah, and the three relievers who worked in today's game, Jeff Brigham, Hobie Harris, and Scott Blewett, I believe all also have minor league time as well, or major league time as well, obviously minor league time. Brigham, 5 strikeouts in 2 innings too today, so probably didn't make it much easier to send him out, but alas, there we are. Let's take a quick pause because I want to come back and talk about a big signing today, a couple of former Twins making teams, and then we've got my 5 bold predictions. But first, a word from PrizePicks. PrizePicks is North America's largest daily fantasy sports platform, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's not just you against other people. It's you and the numbers. Do you see the numbers in the room with us right now? If you do, awesome. Because instead of battling thousands of other players, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. You want to do a demon pick or a goblin pick? You can do whichever. Demons are in red And they're scarier because they are big money picks. They can accelerate your heartbeat, as in you can get 100 times your money. So $10, you win 1,000. And hopefully Dave's okay over there. But if you're
we're fine.
Okay, good. But if you're more cautious, like Dave or me, you can always use a goblin pick. They're marked green because it's easier to keep you in the green, keep you rolling in the green, and allow you to land consistent victories. The payout is less than a demon pick, but your odds of keeping a winning streak going are much better. If you're into the NBA, you can pick more than or less than on everything from three-pointers to turnovers. And on spring training baseball, you can pick nothing because spring training baseball is over. But for regular season baseball, you can pick more than or less than on pitcher strikeouts and first inning runs. So download the app today. Enter code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, all lowercase. You get that first deposit match up to $100. Join PrizePicks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, Dave, Miguel Sano made the Angels, and I think it's interesting that he's going to get to play for Ron Washington. I feel like if there was a manager I want, a player who has kind of lost his way to play for, Wash would be pretty high on that list.
Yeah, definitely. Player's guy, history of getting the Rangers pretty far in the playoffs a decade ago, maybe a little longer than that at this point. Yeah. A guy who we were kind of waiting for his next chance, a really well-respected coach, good communicator, brings a lot to the game, kind of ended his Rangers tenure in a controversial way, but that's apparently in the past. And but as far as the players go, they all stand by the guy. So it's no, he's not even 30 yet, right? I don't think.
Born in 93, so I think he's 30. Oh, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look it up while you talk.
Right. He's kind of a young 30 then. Well, that would be an interesting comeback. The Angels definitely have a lot of I was kind of looking at their roster and their offseason, and I wish Mike Trout well, but I was also thinking, is there any way they could finish behind the A's? Probably not. I think the A's have sufficiently tanked that there's protection there, but could the Angels actually it'd be funny if they had a better record without Shohei than they had with him. I don't see how this is possible, but baseball's funny that way. And Sano coming back to hit 25 or 30 home runs would be not anything that I predicted.
What's the over-under on their wins this year?
I have that information handy.
No, I'm doing a womp womp. I'm sorry. Miguel Sano is 31 in May. So my intuition / reconnaissance, recognition, whatever, my recall was on point.
72.5. You weren't asking seriously, but 72.5 is a published
I don't know how I feel about that. Not sure what I would take. Also, Derek Law made the Nationals, former Twin. Just like to give some love to old friends. The big news, though, Jordan Montgomery signing for 1 year, $25 million with the D-backs. He has an option.
Fire his agent. I'd fire him.
Well, that's my next bullet point. Scott Boras, oof. Options that will vest based on starts and can be up to a 2-year, $50 million deal if everything triggers. Now, I do also believe, though, if he triggers those, that he can opt out after. So a very player-friendly 2-ish year deal. But I don't know. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if I'm looking at Jordan Montgomery, I'm looking at the contracts handed to guys like Patrick Corbin, who that contract ends this year. Like Patrick Corbin was a more dominant pitcher before he signed his contract. Robbie Ray was a more dominant pitcher before he signed his contract. Montgomery, if he's 7-8 strikeouts per 9, doesn't walk anybody, that's a really good pitcher. But maybe you don't want to go 7 years and $25 million to a guy like that. Maybe that part of the
Brandon, you sound like a guy who's working in a major league front office, or perhaps any major league front office.
Well, yeah.
On the one hand, you're right. There's a lot of recent history and even not so recent history is littered with contracts of guys who are kind of like Montgomery and maybe a little better, who got bigger deals and then didn't live up to them. But at the same time, you look at, it's kind of an extreme the other way, basically a 1-year deal,
right?
$25 million. How many teams really probably should have been competing for him on some level at this point?
31.
What's that?
31.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, 10, 15, 20, probably 30.
I said 31 to get the Savannah Bananas in there too.
Right. That's just bananas that a guy like that can't get a longer deal. I mean, maybe it would have been fool's gold to some degree, but 1 year and 25 seems like maybe an overcorrection in the market.
No, for sure.
Bit. So it's a move for the Diamondbacks that makes a lot of sense, given they just lost. Who did they just lose?
Eduardo Rodriguez.
Eduardo Rodriguez, who they'd signed to a longer. There's another guy. Eduardo Rodriguez got a long contract and is already hurt. So, but then again, as we've said, what pitchers aren't already hurt? It seems like most of them are.
Yeah, I don't think it's heretical to say I didn't want to give him the deal that the Cubs gave John Lester 7-8 years ago. And again, that's not me trying to be.
Did they win the World Series with him? They did.
I mean, I guess so did the Rangers. Or the Rangers got to the World. No, they won the World Series. Then they let Jordan Montgomery go. So I'm just saying. Let's do some of my predictions. I think you are very, very excited.
Should I?
Yeah. Number 1. Joe Ryan receives Cy Young votes. So I'm very bullish, right? Bullish?
Yes. Bearish means
down the hill.
A bear's going to kill me.
Bullish
means charge ahead.
Bear rumbling down the hill, bull going up the hill. If you take away the groin injury, he was obviously very, very good last year. I think the fact that he has been keenly aware that he should add some different looks to his repertoire. And I think we had something that a cutter had been added to, perhaps something with a little more cut to it.
One of these guys who pays attention more to this stuff than we do, these analysts said, "Oh, that looks like a cutter."
Jeremy Machino.
Okay. Well,
I call him Machino.
He's got more of a name than one of these guys. So thank you for
pitch profiler. Yeah. Well, anything that Joe Ryan adds to keep hitters off his fastball to me is good, even if it's another fastball. If he can cut it and sink it and run it and dodge, duck, dive, and dodge. If he can do that with his fastballs, he is going to have a really nice year. I'm all in on Joe Ryan. And honestly, if the Twins could sign him to let's say a 5-year deal for, I don't know, 60, 65, 70 million, like solid money, but not break the bank, I think I'd consider it. So
how many years of free agency are we buying out?
That's off the top of my head. That's how much I would like to pay a guy like that. I think you'd probably be buying out, was it 3 ARB years or 2 ARB years and 2 free agent years?
I'm all for going to Arby's. He's a free agent in 2028. So 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 4 years. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no need to really rush to that. But Cy Young votes for Joe Ryan. I love Pablo. I think Pablo may, in fact, win it. I don't think he's got as much competition as people think. We actually, Fangraphs had the Twins ranked the number 4 rotation in baseball. So we will spend more time on that. Paul Sporer, friend of the show, or at least friend of me, and hopefully friend of everybody else, wrote that for Fangraphs. So we'll circle back and revisit that on our next program, which I will be broadcasting from a hotel in lovely Fargo, North Dakota, where everyone goes on spring break. But yes.
The sports book? From the sports book?
No, from the Come On In probably, or something like that. So Joe Ryan, I think, is going to get Cy Young votes. One more before we hit our second break. Daniel Duarte plays a pivotal role in this bullpen. I'm all in on this team's ability to cultivate the best version of player X, especially when it's a pitcher. And I think this is the guy this year. And again, the path to being a good reliever is not exactly a narrow one. Like Griffin Jax is one of the best right-handed relievers in the American League, and he was a lousy starter. Like he just was not cut out for it. Say Liam Hendricks was the same way. He was like 0 and 11 or 0 and 10 or 0 and 9, something like that before he got his first big league win. Not that I care about wins, but you just talk about the perception of him.
He wasn't putting himself in position to win games as a starting pitcher.
True, yeah, it was 6 ERA and whatnot. Although my favorite Liam Hendricks story is he had a shirt that said, "With great beard comes great responsibility." So I will always love him for that because he'd wear that in the clubhouse at Target Field. But with Duarte, I think, again, spring trainings only mean something. Stats only mean something unless you really want them to. But I'm buying into Duarte because he's been so good this spring. But I just think this is the organization, at least in the division, where you can really get behind. Yes, they know their pitching. They know how to get guys to be their best versions of themselves. Sure, I think Bailey Ober might take a rocket ship as well. But Duarte may not even make the opening day roster, but I think he's going to play a big role in a bullpen that is chock full of guys who can really pitch.
Yeah, well, they reportedly he's going to be. Yeah, he hasn't been put in the bullpen yet. I think they're waiting to see exactly how bad the situation is with Staumont before, but he's going to be in Kansas City when they have to activate him, and they don't even have to do that tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly when the deadline is. It seems it could be any time before 3:00 on Thursday when the first pitch is thrown. So I like the topical nature of this pick as far as a bold prediction, because it's new and what's going on. And you're right. It's almost like one never knows where the next good relief pitcher is coming from. It's right. Sometimes it's a failed starter. Sometimes it's a guy that was set up to do it all along. You just never know. And this is a pitcher that anybody in the league could have had. And the Twins sneaked him through, and here he is. So that would be fun if he turns out to have lots of high leverage opportunities with the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, they snuck him through waivers, and it could pan out big for them. Let's take a quick minute, a word from Gametime, and then we'll wrap up this horse and pony show with my last 3 bold predictions. Friends, Gametime is the place to be if you need tickets to a show, a game, theater, you name it, they've got it. If you've had a frustrating experience where tickets weren't available or they were outside your price range, Gametime is the place for you, because when you look up tickets, there's no bait and switch. You know exactly how much you're going to pay at the outset. With a couple quick taps, you're in. You're into the event. You're into the venue. You can beforehand look at where you're going to be sitting and what it's going to look like from there. None of those obstructed views like the old Tiger Stadium or Fenway Park. You know exactly what it's going to look like at the time of purchase. And there is also a Gametime guarantee, which means you'll always get the best price. So if you find tickets in the same section in a row elsewhere for less, Gametime will credit you not only the difference, but 110% of the difference. And you can get deals on tickets right up to the start of your event, or even an hour after it starts. So you can really, really keep an eye on it and really, really get a great deal. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave, my third one is Alex Kirilloff leads the team in hits. And why I think this is bold is because Carlos Santana was brought in to do a very specific thing, which is to face a bunch of lefties, but also play, I'm sure, a fair amount of first base. Now, I was looking back on the game logs, and I had a sliver of hope. Alex Kirilloff did get into a couple games this spring in the outfield. So if Matt Wallner's struggles persist, or let's say Max Kepler pulls a hammy, again, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. If Alex Kirilloff hits well enough against righties and hits well enough on a regular basis to play first base almost every day, DH almost every day, maybe outfield becomes an option again. I think he leads the team in hits because I think not only can he have the highest batting average, but it is a lineup that is not going to be flush with guys that are going to threaten for 180, 200 hits, or even 150 hits, really, because they want their guys to get their walks. Guys are going to get time off. And the studs on the team are not big base hit guys. They're more extra base hit, speed, intangibles, defense guys. So I think AK could do it.
Luis Arias is not coming through that door unless the Marlins are. Do they have a series in Minnesota this year? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, they'll definitely play, right? I mean, it's
everybody plays everybody else, but not necessarily everywhere else.
Well, if he's not this year, he's next year. Oh, actually, next year he probably won't be a Marlin anymore. So,
I like this one too. I like any optimism for Alex Kirilloff because he's due for some good health and some good results, and he's been a player that's developed with the team, but really hasn't had the opportunity to be healthy enough to see what he can do, and that would be an amazing breakthrough on his part if he played. Whether it's in if he had to move to left field, I don't know, but DH or partially at first base, sometimes in the outfield. However he gets in the lineup, if he plays enough to lead the team in hits, it's potentially a great season for him.
Yeah.
And you're right about how I don't know if Lewis or Correa or Buxton are guys that necessarily are going to get a lot of hits compared to some other players because of taking walks and days off and that kind of thing. So this is a pretty good prediction. I like it.
Yeah, AK is just kind of more of that natural hitter, gap to gap, whereas Lewis is hit it hard and run, Buxton's hit it hard and run, and Correa is just kind of, I don't know, Carlos Correa is just kind of Carlos Correa. He just kind of does his own thing. So,
yeah.
Number 4, Twins clinched the division unofficially by Labor Day, September 2nd. So, in my opinion, that would be, let's say, a 10 or 12 game lead by September 2nd. I'm out on everybody in this division. Somebody asked me, though, on a radio hit today in Duluth, and I said the only team that I really worry about making any sort of charge. Charge. What am I, 14?
Peter Brady.
Peter Brady.
And it's time to charge.
Is the Tigers. I'm only worried about the Tigers, and I still don't think they're quite enough of a complete team to contend. I think this Twins team wins, you said what, 96 or 98 games?
I have them at 98 at the moment. 98 and 64 or possibly 63 if they don't make up that rain out.
And I have 93 and 69, and that's a nice season. And if the Tigers are second with 83 wins, I think 1, the Tigers would take that. 2, I think Tigers fans would take that. And 3, again, it would make September pretty anticlimactic. But I got the Twins clinching the Central and maybe not popping the bubbly quite yet. But on September 2nd, when you and I convene, or the day nearest that, we're going to feel pretty good about this team's chances.
Right. I think what's the last day of the regular season, by the way? Is it the 28th of September?
No, you're going to make me use
we don't go into October this year, do we not? I'm just trying to line up your...
You're going to make me use the Google. If there's anything Twins types don't like, it's using Google, whether it's looking up if a pitcher's been injured before or whatever. We hate it. So anyway,
while you do that,
what's that?
What if they're up 10 at the All-Star break? That's not clinching it, right? They could blow that.
They'd probably find a way. 29th. So so Miami comes to Minnesota 24th through 26th of September.
That's the one I should have looked up.
And then they wrap with Baltimore. So that's kind of a fun little end.
Let's wrap with Baltimore, man. How do you feel about Baltimore? That's a really bad pun. So Arise is coming through that door, but he's definitely not going to lead the Twins in hitting. So Kirilloff still has a chance to do that. Yeah. And I agree with you about the Tigers because I think they're going to be improved, but too many things have to go really right, meaning like Jack Flaherty's got to find form that maybe like he'd never even had with the Cardinals for Twins fans to be really worried about him leading the rotation. I think he's just got to, he was terrible the last couple of years because he had a bad shoulder. So
that didn't just go away.
No, it's still attached to the rest of his arm and his body.
He gives me Dylan Bundy vibes where it's like, yeah, this guy used to be really good, but we have no idea what his arm is made of right now. It could be sawdust and pulp for all we know.
That would be really creepy if that's the truth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you think Matt Carpenter's arm was made of sawdust?
Is that a pun too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Carpenter.
If I had to ask. No, it's nailed together and it's two-by-fours. That's what my father-in-law called them, 2x4s.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, my fifth point is related to the fourth, so I'll roll into that. So
let's do it.
The Twins finished with the best record in the American League. I do not think that's all that crazy because the Astros aren't the juggernaut they've been, and they're going to battle with Seattle, who's pretty dang good. Texas, oh, by the way, won the World Series. They're pretty dang good. And then the AL East, to me, is just kind of a mishmash of teams who all could be pretty good. Or, if the Yankees and don't get Garrett Cole back anytime this season, they could fall into a trap. Boston could fall into a trap, Toronto, etc. So I think for me, it's very possible that this could happen.
I think this is a good use of the term bold, but not outlandish or far-fetched at all. The Twins, nothing is easy, but it could very conceivably happen that they have the best record in the league for the reasons that you've laid out. The Rangers aren't getting back. I still like the Rangers in that division.
Right.
But they have like half their pitching staff that isn't there right now and won't be until June or July. And
pretty good pitchers too. Like
the Rangers are going to be very difficult to beat down the stretch, but that doesn't mean they're going to win 97 games or anything close to that necessarily. Right. The Astros don't have Dusty Baker anymore. They've got a Joe Espada, and we'll see exactly what Alex Bregman brings at this point. And Altuve is getting up there in years. Jordan Alvarez is probably the best hitter in the league, so he's great. But I think there's a lot of uncertainty going on with some of the best teams, and the Twins very well could have the best record. That's a great bold point.
Well, it's a great one to end it on because, Dave, we are out of time. So for Dave Brown, this is Brandon Warne signing off saying thank you so much for listening to Locked On Twins, and we'll see you tomorrow night.